Good morning. You have been hearing about software security for last 2 days. Mm, Now today I'll take you to another journey, which is you should not be afraid of the word research. You can see in the topic, the topic says empirical research for software security concepts and applications. So don't get afraid of the word research because maybe you have not been into the area. But this is something how we do empirical studies in any of the area. We'll go to software security in the later part, but basically we will talk about how we do empirical studies for any area. So the concepts and which I'll give that you can apply to any area. It is not that they are fixed only for software security. And another advantage of this is it would, when we go through this course, this lecture, you will also understand how software security is nowadays being done through machine learning and data analytics. So it is not about, if you will see nowadays, most of the software security or in any area, if you see, machine learning and data analytics has a big role to play. So as you will go through this lecture, you will understand how software security, data analysis, machine learning, they are all combined together, and that comes under empirical research. So first I like you to understand what is empirical. What do we mean by empirical? So what I am talking about here is, okay, let me first introduce you to what is empirical. Uh, so as you can see, empirical means based on or concerned with or verifiable by observation or experience rather than theory or pure logic. So what we mean here by that we are understanding something, we are verifying something, or we are finding solution to some problem by observation or experience rather than theory or pure logic. So can anybody of you, Parthi Day, can you think of any problem whose solution we can find by observation or experience rather than theory? Can you think of any problem? All of you take out a copy pen and write down any one problem which you think can be answered by observation or experience rather than theory.
Hello, ma'am. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. You're Jasmita?
Yes.
Yes, Jasmita.
Yes, when it comes to password, we have to make sure sometimes we are typing any password and formula comes up like we have to give one capital, one character, one symbol, and something. So I think observing that we can make a strong password because they always give us a hint of making a strong password for any accounts or something.
Okay. Okay. Fine, Jasmita. Anybody else? Parthi De, would you like to try? I'll just give you a hint. Come out of the security and think of any problem which you feel, any question which can be answered by observation or experience rather than theory. Parthi, would you like to try?
Ma'am, actually, I'm just giving one present the piece experience that when I handle or when I teach some students in class, when they make noise, na, so for keep them silence, I have to that means give them several instructions which I have learned from many classes actually.
Yeah, good. You all tried your best. Let me take an example. Suppose yesterday you had a teacher who taught you the course. Madam Bansal was there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Bansal taught you yesterday. I am teaching you today. Can you have a mathematics which tells whether teacher A was good or teacher B was good? Can you have a mathematics? Can you have a mathematical relation to tell that teacher A was better or a teacher B was better? Yes or no?
No.
No.
Why?
Right? We do not
There is
have
no
any
mathematical terms.
right? We do not have any mathematics which will tell me whether teacher A is better or teacher B is better, right? Okay. So if I want to know that whether teacher A is better or teacher B is better, what would I like to do? If my question is that I want to find out teacher A is better than teacher B or teacher B is better than A or both are the same. So what can I do? Anyone?
Analyze and verify.
Ma'am,
Analyze that. How would we analyze it?
Based on the
yes, ma'am. Nirmal here.
Yeah, Nirmal, yes.
Yeah. So answering to your question, if you'll analyze the behavior of the teacher, that will compare how one, which one is good, either A or B. So in that case, we'll go for observation, like certain parameter we can consider, like the qualities of a good teacher. So by this, it will the observation we can go for like the prediction, like that concept
So
that can apply to
one thing you said, we see the behavior,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And another thing you said, we see the quality of good teacher, right?
Yeah, qualities like we can identify and we can collect some data, the qualities of a good teacher, like communication skills, elaborate skills, certain parameters that we can go for observation. So where the mathematical concept cannot be applied. That the previous
Right.
question that I'm answering to that. Yeah.
So very right. Something like this, if we want to answer, we will have to collect certain data and then we need to analyze that data. It's not a simple answer that we do not have a mathematical relation. So we do not have a
Exactly.
simple answer. And when we do not have a simple answer, for these kinds of questions, we do empirical research or empirical study. Okay? So is it clear for what kind of questions we do empirical studies?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Is it clear to you all?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That is good. I like to see your yes, yes. Whenever you feel it is okay, you write at least yes. So that we are interacting with each other. Okay? So when I talk of empirical software security, it is that area of research that emphasizes the use of empirical methods in the field of software security. So when I use empirical method in software security, it becomes empirical software security. And it is now clear to you where we can use empirical problems. For what kind of problems we can use empirical methods, right? Clear?
yes, ma'am.
Yes. So when we decide that we have to use an empirical method, suppose in case of software security, what kind of problems we can have where we find the solution by empirical method. You all know that software is developed by using a software development life cycle model. Are you aware? If yes, do write in chat yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Jasmita says yes, nice. All parties, Udaypal also says
Yes,
yes.
ma'am.
Pathi says yes. So you all know that there is some software development lifecycle model, and using that software development lifecycle model, we make a software, and the purpose of developing a software is that it should be a quality software, right? So that is the goal of using software engineering principles to develop a software. Okay, it should be a good quality software. And when it comes to quality, there are number of parameters which come under quality, right? So one of the important parameter is security is also one of the quality parameter and a very important quality parameter these days. So now what happened? So we were using a software development lifecycle model and was doing some development. And now Microsoft came up with a new software development lifecycle model called as Secure Software Development Lifecycle Model by Microsoft, right? So now Microsoft gave another lifecycle model called as Secure Software Development Lifecycle Model. Similarly, SAP is a company which is a German company. It is a European company, biggest European country which produces software, develops software it's a multinational company. And they also came up with the secure software development lifecycle model called as SAP Secure Software Development Lifecycle Model. They also write it as S-Secure DL. Okay, SAP Secure Software Development Lifecycle Model. Now, I was doing development by a normal software development traditional software development lifecycle model, and then now Microsoft came up with the new approach, which is secure software development lifecycle model. Now we want to know whether secure software development lifecycle model is better design approach than traditional software development lifecycle model, or it is not. If that is the case, how would I do it?
Ma'am, can you come again with the question?
I have a traditional software development lifecycle model and I have secure software development lifecycle model. Now, whether secure software development lifecycle model is better than the traditional lifecycle model in some manners. So how I can find out this? What method I will have to follow or what approach I will have to follow?
Okay, ma'am.
Is there any mathematics to find this answer?
No, ma'am.
No. So what we will do?
Again, for this, because in traditional software development, as per my knowledge, in that case, that consists of, once one page is completed, then it will go to the next page. But if we'll talk about the latest software model, so in this model, the different phases are communicated. Like, there is no dependency on, once development is completed, then testing will do. So in the latest model, the such kind of things going parallelly, so which produce a quality software. So this qualities we can take an attribute, yeah. So
Nirmal,
rather
I
than
got
going
you.
for a, yeah, rather than going to
Nirmal?
the mathematical, yeah.
Nimmer, I got you.
Yeah.
But there is no mathematical way of proving that this is better than that. Okay, by theoretically we can say that this offers these advantages. Okay, but we have to prove it by experiment or we have to prove it by experience, right? So the method to do
In
is
this case,
again the solution to this is
prediction, like the
observation
quality.
and the experience.
Yeah.
Prediction we will come later on. In second half, I will talk about prediction. First, here I am talking about how we develop the experiment, right? So here, what we will have to do,
Yeah.
we will have to do the observation. Okay,
Observation and
so that means
experience.
we will have to
Okay.
use an empirical technique to find out. Empirical is the solution to find out whether a new approach is better than the earlier approach. Right? Clear? If yes, then please write down in the chat yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Write down in the chat. You keep on writing, so
Yes, ma'am.
I feel that motivates me to teach you something which maybe I feel you should learn. Because everybody today should learn data analytics, everybody today should learn machine learning. And I'll try to take you through these 3 hours in this journey. And I hope that after 3 hours, you have a fairly good idea how data analytics is used, how machine learning is used, and how in any field you can connect them together. So it gives me, whenever you understand, please write down, please in the chat, keep writing, yes, we have understood. Okay? Thank you. Now, when I say that now my problem is that this new approach, my approach is that this new, I want to compare a new design approach with an earlier approach. So I have to first think, I do not have first I have to set a goal, what I really want to clear. So here the goal is vague, because what I mean by better. When we took an example of a teacher being better than the other, what I mean by better. Here also, when I talk of new design approaches better than others, then what do I mean by better? It is not clear. Okay, it is easy to use. Is it better? Or it gives less false? Is it better? Or it is more secure? That is better? I do not, my question does not answer this. So my goal is very vague. So because my goal is vague, I have to pay enough attention to overall goal of your experiment. Do not start until you have refined into a set of verifiable goals. So here this goal is not verifiable when we say that this is better than some other approach. Fine? So what we are talking about here is how we make an experiment to gather the data in empirical studies. And in the second part, I'll take how we analyze that data and how we can come up with some output from that data, which is useful to us. Right? Is it clear? Is it clear that this goal is very vague and we have to refine this goal until it becomes some verifiable goals. Okay? Thank you for writing yes. I would have loved to take this class physically. Okay. Now, first thing we talked about scope. Okay? So first thing we talked about goal and we said goal is vague. Okay? Now, in order to make goal more clear, now we have to determine what would be the focus of my study. Focus could be on the process or it could be the result produced. It could either be a process or it could be the result produced. What do we mean by process? Either I want to compare that this process was simpler than the earlier process. I am talking about the process being followed. Or this process took less effort than the earlier process. So one of my goal could be something like this. When I say better, I could say better in the terms of process or I could say better in terms of result. Okay. In the terms of result, I could say that when I followed this process, it led to less security vulnerabilities. Or if I'm talking of process, I might talk about that this took less time to learn, this took less time to do the designing. So whatever. So when I have to clear my goals, I must think about what is my actual goal, whether I am trying to see the process or I am trying to see the result. Clear? Is it clear? If you say yes, then I'll go forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, once I decide whether it is a process which I want to check or I want to check the result. Okay. If I want to check the process, then I need to think early about what data you need to collect and how can you do that. If it is a process, then for that process, I need to measure certain data. I need to have some data, right? So at the starting of the project only, I need to know what I need to collect. Okay, what data I'll be requiring in order to say that this process is better than the another process in these respect. Okay, so what respect I want to measure? Okay, suppose I want to measure that process A takes less design time than process B. Then I will have to measure how much design time took in process A and how much design time took in process B, right? And if your study is result oriented, clearly define your expectations regarding the output that the participants have to produce. Okay. And if it is result oriented, then I need to check my result. And then whenever we need to check a result, I need to check a result. There is some result will be produced by this. Okay. But that result needs to be compared with something which I assume is correct. So now we have to clearly define your expectation regarding the output that the participants have to produce. Okay. Whether, so what we do in, okay, so we have to decide it is a process oriented or it is a result oriented, right? And depending upon what is a process oriented or result oriented, we will have what kind of data we'll be requiring. Clear? Then we also have to talk about whether it is the quality or the quantity we are looking for. In the sense, whether we are looking for hard numbers like execution time, precision, recall. These are the terms very much used in artificial intelligence, machine learning, precision, recall. You do not need to worry about them, what they are. But the thing is, execution time, you all are very clear. Or there could be some soft output like user experience of the data. So again, in the problem, when you are defining your goal, you have to clear all these things. Okay. Okay. So when I am talking of quantity, we talk of the terms like true positive. So we need to have a predefined baseline. I talked earlier also. What I mean by a predefined baseline, I need to know that whether, suppose participants found out that these many threads were found. Okay. Whenever I check if I have to check these two methodologies, methodology A and methodology B, I really have to know that these are the possible threads in my software, and out of these possible threads, how many threads could be found out by using process A, and how much could be found out by using process B. So that means I really need to know what are actually the threads available. Okay. So I need to have some predefined baseline. So we have to, before doing an experimentation, baseline is required and we have to prepare that baseline. Okay. So this was deciding your goal only. Okay. So till now we were not clear of the goals. So we have to have some clear goals about what we are trying to do. In case of an example of a teacher A is better than the teacher B. So what kind of a measurable goal you can have?
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes.
Can you please repeat it? The question you asked.
Yeah, question Simran I asked is, suppose we want to see whether teacher A is better than teacher B. So what kind of a goal we can have, which is a measurable goal, which we can actually measure from the data?
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah,
Maybe by the level of understanding or using the basic things to make students understand. So, in that process, we can do.
how we will measure that you student has understood or not understood?
Ma'am, we can keep a poll for students
Okay.
so they can rate according to that for the understanding level as we were given in our colleges for the teachers. So
Okay.
they used to take our
So that
they,
becomes a kind of a survey. Okay.
yes, ma'am, survey.
That
Yes.
becomes a kind of a survey. So here what I am talking basically is of setting an experiment. Okay. That is fine.
Ma'am,
That is also one of an empirical method doing a survey.
Yes.
Okay. You get the survey done
yes, ma'am.
and then from that survey you can analyze. Okay. You will have certain set of
Ma'am,
questions and from these questions you can analyze. Okay. That is one way of doing it.
Survey we
When I
can
talk
do
of,
interview session.
yes, Imran.
For, ma'am, after survey we use interview sessions for observation methods.
Right. So survey is one way, and another is what here I am talking. Basically, these steps basically are for setting an experiment. Okay. And if I have to set an experiment for this, right?
yes,
Then can
ma'am.
you be
Ma'am, we can identify certain, attributes of the classroom session, like, teacher and students' response. In this way, we can go for a survey and we can classify some attributes. So with this, we can, compare, and by this, we can go for the,
right? So
like,
that is
how
what,
the class is responsive, and the communication and the elaborative skills, and the response, after the class, there are some certain of questions like MCQ, then how the response of the students. So in this way we can identify, whether, teacher A or B is good as per the problem.
right, right. Okay. So one is that we put some MCQs and then ask them certain questions, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So when we ask them, when in these kind of experiment, in this kind of experiment, what do you think? The first teacher A should teach them, and then the teacher B should teach them, and then we should ask them and see the result. Is it like this or something else?
Yeah, yeah, like this we can, that I considered one parameter that came to my mind. So like this we can, go for survey, like, to fix it, and we for, like, 4 5 parameters, like, to solve this problem, either to analyze whether A, B, or C teacher is explaining, like the class is responsive or not. Like this we can solve the problem.
Good, Nirmal.
Yeah.
So I want to say when we do an empirical research or empirical experimental setup, we have to take care of many things. Okay. So first thing that we said is we have to fix our goal. Okay. So our goal,
Yeah.
we try to make the goal measurable, quantifiable goal. Okay. Quantifiable in the sense, suppose I I prepare 5 questions, okay, and I give that when teacher A teaches them, I give them those questions and find out how many of them answered those questions, and we do a calculation, okay. Similarly, Okay, that could be one measurable goal, that how many out of, and we can find out the average, that out of the 5 questions, how many questions were solved by the students when teacher A taught them, right? And same, and we can find out the average number, and similarly we can do for teacher B. Is it clear? Average number of questions solved, average percentage number of questions solved by students with teacher A, and average percentage number of questions solved when students were taught by teacher B. Okay, is it a measurable? Is this goal a measurable? Yes or no? Yes, it is a measurable. So we need to have a goal which is measurable. Okay, so it could be anything. So I just
Ma'am,
gave this as an example. Yeah.
Yeah, another attribute is coming to mind, like whenever we have physical class, so
Yeah.
we can keep an eye by a, nowadays in classroom also, there are CCTV also, like using, like, to observe whether the students are responding not. So by this way, we can observe, like in a classroom, how students are, like responsive, how effectively they are listening and responsive. So as per the data analytics concept, we can, identify and we can collect the data from the CCTV, and by this also we can analysis to solve this problem.
Nirmal, very
Is it
right
right?
you are saying.
Yeah.
That is another branch of empirical where we analyze in their environment, called as ethnography. That's another. So case study is one. In empirical studies, we have case studies, we have ethnographies, we have experiments. So we have different ways of empirical research. Okay. So what you are saying is observing. That comes under the part of when we use an ethnography approach. So here, basically, these steps I'm talking about in case of an experimentation. And in the case of an experimentation, we normally try to have a goal which is a measurable, so that there are no biases. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay? So
Yes, ma'am. But this is coming under that ethnography approach, that is coming under also machine learning. Is it right?
yeah, that is fine.
Yeah.
That is fine.
Okay. Yes.
Okay? So that technique of improving the goal and taking goal to a metric form is called a technique as goal question metric. Determine appropriate measures. It may be possible that by defining measures, the goal you set earlier need to be adjusted. Okay, so whatever the goal I started with A is better than other B, I improve it to that A is better in this sense. Okay, so I might revise my goal depending upon the, finally I agree to the kind of measurement I am going to take for this. So this is here, till here we are just discussing how we define our research question. Okay, so we have now a measurable, some measure which we agree that we all agree that by this measure we will find out the result of the experiment. Okay, it could be anything. Okay, and whatever, a very simple example I am taking is of a teacher, so that you all understand, as you are from different background. But sometimes to decide upon what measures we have to take, we call experts. Okay, it is not that I take, because I take any measure whichever comes to my mind. If I have to take measures in case of security is my concern, so we call upon experts from the security, and from the security experts tell that for this experiment, this should be the measure. Okay, and maybe not a single expert, we call a group of experts, and they all should agree on my measure. Okay, so it is not so that there are no biases. The result are then only the result would actually be validated. Is it clear? Now we have decided upon the goal. Measure. We have some goal which is in a measurable form. Now we have to define our success criteria also. Okay. What do we mean by success criteria? There can be many. Few of the examples which are written here is, if the new approach can automatically identify 80% of the security issues in automated manner, is it fine? Am I right? Would I consider it a success or failure? What if 40% of the reported issues are irrelevant? It has automatically identified 80% of the security issues, but 40% of the reported issues are irrelevant. Would I say that this is I am successful in the experiment? Yeah, new approach is successful or new approach is not successful. Okay, I have to decide right at the beginning. What if it performs exactly the same as another technique, yet with a 1% increase in efficiency? In all other manners, the new technique is working in the same way as the earlier technique, but only there is 1% increase in efficiency. Would you say is it a success or it is a failure? Uday is saying give some practical example. Uday, in second part, I'll give a practical example. Because until you have cleared the concepts, I cannot directly move on to the showing you the data and showing you the analysis, because then it would be expecting too much from you. So a little background is required, and then in the second session I'll give you some data that how we actually work on the data and how we actually do the analysis using machine learning and machine learning techniques or using artificial intelligence. Uday, I'll come to that, but yes, let me give some idea how actually, if you do not understand how the experiment is made, what is the value of data, until and unless you understand what this data is about, why we have collected this data, then you cannot do a right analysis. It is not what normally the students these days does. We have so many project students, what they do, they take data from somewhere, apply some algorithms and come up with some result. But to understand what these results are, to understand which machine learning algorithm we need to apply, to understand how the data is to be cleared, or how the data is to be, we call the term as cleaned, whatever you have done doesn't make any sense. Okay, so you will understand the value of this only if you understand what data we have collected, why we have collected this, what was our goal, then what we want, what kind of a solution we are looking for it. So what kind of technique we should apply, what kind of statistics we should apply, that would depend only if you understand the data. Until and unless you understand that, whatever you do doesn't make any sense. You do something, these are automated tools are there, you give data, you input something and put some automated tool, it would give some result. You will not understand whether those results are relevant or not, why these results are come. These results you will be able to understand only if you know how you have collected the data, why you have collected the data, what is your criteria of success, what actually you are expecting from this study. So there you will have to bear with me till we go to the second session, and there I'll show you something which actually analysis is done. Is it fine with you, Uday? I understand that it is always difficult to first go through the basics. We all want to really end up finding the solution at the earliest. Actually, normally this whole thing we teach in a 5-day course, right from how we collect the data, which kind of data is collected, why it is collected, what kind of methods is to be done. So we are trying to contract it in 3 hours, I hope I'll be able to give you some value, maybe not the whole. Okay, so should I move forward?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
repeat this question. My question was here that if the new approach can automatically identify 80% of the security issues in automated manner, so I have used a new approach which finds out, as I said, I used a new approach that I used Microsoft Secure Security Development Lifecycle, and by using Microsoft Secure Security Development Lifecycle, it has automatically identified 80% of the security issues. Okay, and out of these 40% of the reported issues are irrelevant. Okay, so do you think is it a success or it is a failure? Success or failure? Write in the chat box. Write in the chat box. Is Jasmita Roy says it is success. Amit says it is success. Udaypal says success. Mohandas says success. Okay. So whether it is a success, my answer to this is it is a success or a failure depends upon what success criteria we decided at the starting. It is not at the end that we decide upon whether it is a success or a failure. So in the problem statement only, we have to define our success criteria. Okay, that if we get this much of improvement, then we will consider this as a success, or we will consider this as an option, and if it is not, we will not. Okay, so here my question is that before doing an experiment, you have to define success criteria also. Okay, even 5% improvement or could be a success, or it depends upon the problem that what kind of success are we looking for, right? In some situation, 1% improvement could be a good thing. In another situation, 10% or 20% improvement might not be a good thing, because because we have to see, normally we see it in relation to the kind of effort and cost involved into it. When instead of a normal software development lifecycle model, I move to a secure software development lifecycle model, maybe the effort to develop software development would also increase. Okay, so in the beginning only, we have to see that maybe in comparison, I have success criteria, which is in comparison to my return on investment. Okay, maybe it has, instead of it, if by using a traditional method, it doesn't give me an automated security issues, but after I have done the development, there are some tools available. I run those tools and those tools give me security issues. And maybe the effort to run those tools is much less than the effort to use secure software development lifecycle model. Okay, so success criteria would depend upon your definition of success criteria right at the beginning of your problem, not at the end. Okay, so we are here talking about, till now just talking about how we define the problem. Is it clear? If you say yes, then I'll move forward. If you say no, I'll repeat here. Parthi says yes. Sandeep Reddy also says yes. Sushma says yes. Jasmita, yes. Chetty, no, ma'am. Mohan, you have not understood. Yes, please, whatever your concern is, please speak out. Mohan, you have some concern? All rest says yes. Mohan has not understood. Mamta Chaudhary says yes. Repeat, ma'am, please. Ajit, I only want to emphasize that at the beginning of the problem, at the beginning of the experimental setup, we are here only talking of experimental setup. We have not started actual experiment yet. At the beginning of the experimental setup, I have to define my success criteria. And whatever I define my success criteria, and whatever the results I get, they will be compared with what success criteria I have defined. If it meets that success criteria, then my results are success, my experiment is success. If they do not meet my success criteria, my experiment is a failure. Is it clear? And that success criteria again is decided by the experts in that area. It is not that I have bias about this because I have developed secure software development lifecycle model. I have a bias about this. I have put in a lot of effort in developing it. And so I will have a success criteria which is in favor of secure software development lifecycle model. Okay, no, not like this. That success criteria would again be decided by security experts, that what we will call as success and what we will not call as success. Because our success has to be relevant, has to be in corresponding to return on our investment. What kind of effort we are putting? It is a very important issue in software development. Effort of the development, how much time it takes to do the development. Because if I take more time to develop the software, maybe my competitors would already be ready with the solution. They already would have some they would come up with their own software and the market will be captured by them. Okay, so we have also to see how much time, how much effort it takes to develop the software, not only about what results it is giving. Is it clear? If it is clear to you, then I move forward. If not, then I'll again repeat. Udaypal, it is clear. Okay. Chatty also says, now it is clear. Okay, we move forward. Jen says it is clear. Now be prepared for surprises. It may occur that the collected data of the study turns out to be harder to interpret than anticipated, or that it leads to indeterminate conclusions about the study's hypothesis. So whenever you are doing an experiment, don't think that it will go the way you proposed it to go or the way you thought it would work. It might happen that it doesn't work the way you have thought it to work. Okay, you might have some data which you wanted to collect. You might have problems collecting that data. Or even if you collected that data, you might have some missing data into that. Or you might have some values which are coming. Suppose I have collected the data of 10,000 data I have collected, and out of that 9,900 data is 000 or is same. These kinds of things do happen, and then we should be prepared that something of this can happen. Okay? And this might lead to an indeterminate conclusion. And so it is what we try to do, we try to collect as much data as possible, maybe some data which might not be of useful to my goals. Because data collection itself is a big task. You will not be able to again set up that experiment, because setting an experiment, doing the experiment, it is a long process, requires a lot of effort. So normally, because we all know that there can be some surprises, there can be some data which would be difficult to interpret, there would be some data where values are not there. The number of problems can occur while collecting the data. So what we try to do is we try to collect as much data as possible in one go. Maybe not useful in this study. Maybe while doing this study, you feel that this data was also important. If we should have collected. Many times it happens. I work on the field of software fault detection. Many times when students collect the data, after collecting the data, they said, "Ma'am, ye data bhi available." I said, "Didn't you get this thing?" And they say, "Ma'am, ye data to available tha, maine collect nahi kiya." Now, what happens? Normally, when we collect data, it might happen that you are collecting data from a static system, or you might be collecting data from a dynamic system. And when you are collecting data from a dynamic system, just a minute, I'll take one call. Manuji, hello. हाँ लो क्लास ठगी है वैसे में 12:30 खत्म हो जाएगी हाँ हाँ पक्का हाँ वो ऑनलाइन का मैंने लिख के भेजा सीओई को कहो भाई ओके कर दे एक नहीं है कई है मैंने एक नहीं है कई है मैंने तो लिख के भेज दिया मैंने तो फ्राइडे को लिख के भेज दिया था सीओई को ओके कर दे कि ऑनलाइन इनसे बात वैसे मैंने करी थी कि ऑनलाइन की ओके कर दो क्योंकि बच्चे कहाँ दूर नौकरियों में लगे हुए हैं सारे बच्चे इतने इतने दिन के लिए यहाँ आके कैसे रहेंगे हाँ गैप हो जाएगा और वो एयरफोर्स वालों के तो कई है सिर्फ एक लड़की नहीं और भी है ना वो जरा ओके करा के भेज दो मैंने तो कई और तरह की है ना कई कई आ गए मेल किसी कोई कहाँ नौकरी पे है कोई कहाँ नौकरी पे है तो कह रहे 2 दिन थ्योरी पेपर तो देने आ जाएंगे प्रैक्टिकल तो फिर गैप के बाद हमें दोबारा आना पड़ेगा दोबारा क्वारंटाइन होना पड़ेगा ठीक है चलो ओके ओके बाय सॉरी सॉरी स्टूडेंट्स okay so when we ask students to collect data so because sometimes we collect dynamic data okay so dynamic data keeps on changing when it keeps on changing so once if I have not collected some parameter or some attribute at one point of time and if I try to collect it later on that other parameters would have already changed so I will need to do everything again okay so that is what we say that we try to collect some data which might feel not be useful at this time but later on we might use it in some way so we try to collect as much data as possible in one go is it clear
Ma'am, when it comes to this dynamic data,
yeah
if they keeps on changing, so while doing the process, if the data gets changed, so the process might interrupt.
no why the process would interrupt
If the parameter gets changed and the data keeps on changing, so it
Yes.
might happen.
When we collect the data, we say that we have collected the data from this date to this date. Okay?
Okay.
Till this date, we write over there. We have collected this data till this date because if you see on the net, we have work on the web development. We collect some web performance data, which are the logs we collect. They keep on changing, right? They keep on
Yes.
changing. So we have to decide the time limit that we will collect data from this to this. Okay. And we
Okay.
will write that we have collected data, live data, dynamic data we have collected till this date. These many entries, because when you talk of dynamic data, number of entries would be very large. So you have to have some numbers. You know, I say I'll do this analysis on 1 lakh entries or 10 lakh entries, or depending upon what kind of processing capacity or what kind of data is actually required for my study. Okay. So dynamic data, the problem comes if 4 parameters I took in some different date and 5th parameter I took in some other dates, then it creates problem.
Okay, so all the data must be collected from say on same date at one go.
Yeah. That is what I am saying. That so we try to collect some extra data also. Maybe I feel that it is not required right at the moment, but while doing the experimentation, because you understand so many things when you collect the data. Okay, and when you understand, then you feel this data was also important. अगर ये पता कर लेते तो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाती ये
Yes,
तो हमने देखा ही
exactly.
नहीं यू अंडरस्टैंड क्योंकि ये जो
Yes,
प्रॉब्लम्स
yes.
होती है ये these are new I do not know how the things that's why I am writing be prepared for surprises है ना सरप्राइज जब अगर होती फिर लगता है ओहो ये एक्सपेरिमेंट में ये भी करना चाहिए
So for one particular process, so if we are actually doing one process, for that particular process, we need to collect all the data at one go.
Right.
Okay.
So we sometimes, that is what I'm saying, हम कुछ extra भी collect कर लेते हैं कि कोई बात नहीं काम आएगा तो कोई बात नहीं, अब collection तो हो ही रही है ना, तो इसके साथ ये भी collect कर लो, because normally कुछ automated tools use करते हैं हम collection करने के लिए, है ना, because अब 10 lakh entries है, you cannot do it manually.
Exactly.
So some automated methods we use. तो जब हम automation लगाते हैं तो हम कहते हैं इस parameter पे भी लगा दो, इस पे भी लगा दो. Let's collect this data and maybe later on we will see whether it is of, if it is not you, it is okay. Okay. But many times it does happen that we make use of the data which at the starting of the experiment I thought would not be useful. You know, I take an example. How? Okay, I work on fault prediction. Okay, and when we talk of fault prediction, it could be any kind of. It could be security fault also. It could be memory fault also. It could be any kind of faults, right? So what we do, maybe I collect data on the lines of code of the class. I collect that. There are a number of metrics which we collect. Okay, lines of code is one of them. Suppose I collected data on 30 attributes. Fine. And while I started analyzing the data, I find that even if I would have collected only lines of code, or then only it would have been sufficient, because only one attribute is also giving the similar kind of results which my 30 attributes are giving. Or maybe there is only one other attribute 1 and attribute 2 I have collected and they are giving the similar results. Maybe I needed some other attribute. Okay. Okay, don't complex the things. The things would become clear to you when I'll try to take one example in the second half of when we do. Okay, is it clear? So the only thing is that I'm trying to emphasize, we try to collect extra data also. Collect as much as data as possible without influencing the actual study. जो actual study है उसमें data A या B चाहिए, वो तो ठीक ही है. To increase confidence, to compensate for lower than expected data quality, and to explain potential anomalies. Later on, we might feel that we require this, so we try to collect as much data as possible. Is it fine? If yes, then I'll move, right? Jasmita says yes. Parthy also says yes. I would like to see more yes, because I should feel all the classes not sleeping. Katnik says yes. By the end of the class, I should remember your names. Udaypal also says yes. Okay, thank you. Now, when we talk of, this was only we were doing the planning. We have not actually, started the experimentation. We are doing the planning only. Then we design our plan, when we design our study. When we design our study, the first question comes, should be an open or restricted environment. What do we mean by open or restricted environment? When I say it is a restricted environment, that means data will be collected in a restricted environment. Maybe I'll collect data in the lab only. You cannot do that experimentation at your home. You will do it in the lab only. Data will be collected from this time to this time, or some other kinds of rules we can have, which we call as a restricted environment. And another could be an open environment, that you say that this data is what is required. You can do at your own. You can do at your own place. You make up your own setup and collect the data. Okay. When we do restricted environment, I have done an experimentation. Collection of the data would be done at a place where I have set up the experimentation on this computer only, with this much of memory only, with this much of this specifications of the system, the data would be collected. With this internet speed, the data would be collected, or it could be an open environment. So depending upon what kind of experiment you have, you can have an open or a restricted environment. Okay. Now, what happens in statistics? What happens in these empirical studies? Whenever we do an empirical study and whatever the results we get, these results need to be statistically validated. What do I mean by statistically validated? There are some statistical tests which we need to apply on our results, and that tell whether whatever I am saying, it is true or it is not. Okay. So what happens, as far as statistics says that minimum these many data sets should be there. They have a minimum limit. Okay. Because all those tests, they are valid only for some minimum number of samples. Okay. But if I do not have those many samples, or it is not possible to have those many samples, then should I go up with that study or should I not go with that study? And what the research says, even those the studies cannot be statistically relevant because of the low number of participants, they are quite valuable. We should do those studies also, even if it is not possible to have that minimum number, because that also gives us some insights about the study we are doing. Okay. So normally it is in normal course, we should have that much minimum number of participation which is required. But if it is not possible in the kind of experiment we are doing, then with less participation also we can carry on. Okay. It might be possible that we are not able to apply all statistical tests, but even then it is okay that we carry on that study. Is it clear to you or not? Maybe people would have some problem understanding this. I would like to know in the chat box, is this point clear to you or not? Abhijit says clear. They also says yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Jayant says no. Jayant, have you heard of statistical tests? You can unmute yourself, Jayant. Jayant?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard of statistical tests?
Yes, ma'am.
है ना? Give me any one example of any statistical test you have heard of.
Ma'am, it was not audible. There's sound problem. Could you explain once more?
Could you be a bit louder? I couldn't make out.
Ma'am, it was not audible. When you were speaking, no, it was not audible due to network problem.
Okay, I am not audible.
Yes.
This is what, okay, I repeat this again. Is it better now? Okay, I'll put off my mask. There is no one right now in the room. Maybe it would make a little difference. Jayant, what I am trying to say, in some of the studies, it is not possible to have a minimum number of participants which are required for statistical testing. Because statistical tests are valid, because whenever we do a testing, we do on a set of participants, we do not do on the complete population. Okay, so the test to be valid for the complete population, statistics says that you need to have a minimum number of these many participants or these many entries, and sometimes it is not possible to have in this kind of experiment I am doing those kinds of participants, those number of participants. Although it is not possible, to statistic, those studies might not be statistical relevant. Even then, we should go about those studies because they give us some useful insights about the study. Is it now clear to you?
Yes.
Was I audible now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Is it now clear to most of you? If you say yes, then
Yes, ma'am.
okay, thank you. Would you like to now, I think you would like to have a gap. Let us ask the host if he says we have to have a gap, we have to break down here, then we break. And if
Ma'am, usually our time is up to 12:30, ma'am.
and
Our session breaks at 12:30. So maybe we can open the session for any questions or clarification.
okay, okay. So it is open for the questions. Whatever you want to ask, you can unmute yourself also. You can write in the chat also. Whatever is convenient to you. Till what I have covered, I know lot is to be covered. I don't know how much we'll be able to do, but I'll try to give you some inputs, something you have take home, that you feel that we attended a class, we learned something. I'll try my best. Yes, it is open for questions. You can write in the chat also, and you can unmute yourself and ask me also. Any questions till now? I think you all are feeling hungry or sleepy.
Ma'am, what would be the key result for that statistical analysis, for the statistical study of data?
What would be the result? That would depend
Yes.
upon the problem in hand.
Okay.
Okay. What is hard numbers is somebody asking. Hard number, the result could be something like, he also asked that hard numbers, we try to find out the accuracy. We have terms like precision, we have terms like recall, specificity, ROC curve, it would depend upon the study. In the starting, I'll decide what I'm trying to do. Maybe by the experiment, I am trying to compare the execution time. Okay. Now what happens? Now, suppose I am comparing the execution time for two sets of experiments. Okay. So now the execution time, once I run that, okay, let me take suppose a program's example to make the things clear. Now, once I run it and execution time of program A comes out to be less than program B. Okay. I cannot say that program A is better because it gave me an execution time less only once I run that experiment. I'll run that at many times with different inputs. Okay. And then I'll come up with result every time. Okay. And even then, if it says that A is giving better results than B, I will have to prove that it statistically also. Because statistics says that it might be because by chance A is giving better result. For the kind of inputs you have put, it might be possible that A is given better results. Now, suppose as I am teaching you, somebody of you might like my lesson just because he has an interest in this subject. Okay, it is not because I am teaching you better. It is just because you had interest in this subject and you say that I was better. But statistics doesn't agree with this. It says that by chance results, when we say statistically, we have to prove it. So by chance results have to be minimized. So statistics would say that this is better than other only when statistically it is proven that it is better. That means it proves that it is for a population, it is better. It is not for the only, maybe for if this is a class of 40 students, you say I taught well. Statistics doesn't agree with this. Statistics says 40 और participants लाओ और तरह के लाओ, उनको भी पढ़ाओ और वो भी अगर अच्छा कहेंगे फिर उस तरह के कितने ही सेट ऑफ एक्सपेरिमेंट्स करो, सब अच्छा कहेंगे तब मानूंगा आप अच्छे हो. इट इज जस्ट अ पॉसिबिलिटी कि ये बच्चों को आप अच्छे लग गए. यू अंडरस्टैंड? सो हम जो रिजल्ट आएगा हमारी स्टडी का, दैट वुड बी, मेरी क्वेश्चन क्या था, मेरा रिसर्च ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या था. I'll show you hypothesis in my next session. I'll show you. Thank you so much all the students for your patience hearing. Thank you.